Didn't know I was that tall. Thank you, Mayor, Council. I want to really praise JAR. I was watching that earthquake both on Thursday and Friday. And when I saw the water lines breaking in LA, I thought, there's the smart man. You guys are getting new water lines in. Those others are probably real old. I've heard that comment several times in LA. Some are 75, 100, 125 years old, and they break, and you lose all that water. You're ahead of the game. One of the few that I know that is ahead. And I'm very proud that you're here and what you're doing that way. And the council being behind it too. But it's very good to be ahead of the game instead of behind it. So I thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Did you turn your microphone?
I appreciate the comment, Dick. I just want reaffirmation from the city manager that we've got reinforced steel water lines, and because my concern is as a citizen in Loma Linda, I may have beachfront property here one of these days, and I want to be sure I've got water.
Yes.
Our water lines are, what shape are they in?
We're in a good shape, and my goal is within 4 years I will replace every majority of pipe that are older than 50 years old, so we can very close.
Good, good, okay. Kudos, Dick, you got it right.
Okay, the next request to speak is from Lupe Camacho.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, great staff, and wonderful residents of the city of Loma Linda. My name is Lupe Camacho, and I am the partnership specialist for the U.S. Census Bureau for the San Bernardino County. And I wanted to do a bit of introduction just to kind of give you an overview of who I am and what I do and what I can provide on behalf of the U.S. Census Bureau. As we all know, the decennial is coming, the 2020 count, and it's very important that we make sure that our Inland Empire is counted and completely counted, and that everybody gets counted. So that is the purpose why I am here tonight. The U.S. Census Bureau has a program by which they provide, and we provide, guidance and also assistance and partnership with the cities, with all of the local cities. I'm assigned to San Bernardino County because I live in San Bernardino County. I've been a long-time Inland Empire resident here in the city of Rialto for over 20 years, and I know the area. I've worked for San Bernardino. I've worked for various other cities, City of Chino. I worked, as a matter of fact, with Jarb as an associate engineer with him. And I took this year's sabbatical from my profession to assist in making sure that the Inland Empire is completely counted. It is that important to me as a person, as an individual, and as an engineer. So I wanted to kind of give you an overview of that. We provide the assistance to establish your complete count committee. And I've had a meeting where I've provided some information to your wonderful city manager, and I've given him information about what needs to be done, what are the next steps, information about funding as well and where that's coming from and how all of that will happen, and the benefits for city of Loma Linda and its residents, which is really where the benefit is going to be. We all know that, counting ourselves makes sure that we get dollars from the feds, that we get more money funded for our roads, our schools, for our infrastructure, and that's extremely important to the U.S. Census Bureau, making sure that we're all completely counted. So I just wanted to kind of do a brief, introduction of myself, let you know that I'm here, let you know that I am in contact with your city manager, and that we are working on getting City of Loma Linda completely counted. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Again, I'm here in Rialto, so I'm very local, very close by, and we have quite a bit of information we can provide, both literature, education, and engagement for your community. So that's basically all I wanted to let you know. If you have any questions, I'm free to answer anything you'd like.
I have three questions. First
Sure.
one is, do you count homeless people?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we have a specific way of doing it, and your Complete Count Committee will be engaged in those specific formats in which we do it to make sure that we do count all of our homeless individuals, yes,
So
our people experiencing.
how do you avoid double counting them?
We go through, the people on the ground, us, the ground people, go through and make sure that we get as many people counted as possible. The U.S. Census Bureau has a statistical department that does an overview to review what's been counted and sort of double check with previous decennials. And if any information does show up, they do this all electronically, they do it with computer programs. If anything does show up that appears to be doubled, then they will look at that more closely. So they will reach out and ask the community, they would ask, for example, myself, to go out and speak to the individuals and recount or reassess the information. It's kind of a trickle-down event, so once they do that, they keep checking the information once and twice through their programming system that checks for any double entries.
Okay.
That's how we do it.
My second question is, how do you deal with problems like we have in Loma Linda? For example, I've heard of a house in Loma Linda that had 11 subdivided apartments in a single-family residence. If you came to the front door and said, how many people live here, and they go, 2? How would you
Yes.
know that they're not hiding the fact that there are 11 apartments in that house?
There's really no way that we can force individuals to tell us the truth about who is living there, who is residing there, but the events and the trust that we're going to build with your residents through the Complete Count Committee and through, of course, the engagement of the city and of trusted members of your community, because I see that there's, obviously members that care a great deal about their community and the residents here. Through that, we will be able to engage them and allow them the opportunity to get counted without feeling as though they're going to get reported or they're going to get themselves in trouble. We will be doing, this decennial is going to be predominantly web-based, so it will be over the internet and over the phone. Who doesn't have a phone, a smartphone? I mean, everyone does. So anyone can do it out of their phone. There's going to be very little need for enumerators, which we used to call them census takers. Now they're called enumerators. There will be very little need for them. They will be used as backup only for the purpose of reaching out to those that we felt were not engaged in the events that we plan on obviously having and allowing the people to come out and be engaged and be involved in the census. That's how we're going to handle it. But most of it is web-based, so people really should feel very comfortable of getting into a website, a government website, and providing their information. And we steer them in the right way. We counsel them, let them know that there's not all of the information is required. We do inform them if they're uncomfortable with any particular information. They don't need to provide it, but we do press upon them the importance of complete applications and complete questionnaires. So, yeah.
Okay, my third question is,
Sure.
how do you deal with students who live at home but come to school and stay here 9 months?
Very good. We do educate our Complete Count Committee members, which will be considered as ambassadors for you, on the methodology by which that is done. Typically, the format of counting someone is done at the place when April 1st hits. April 1st of next year, 2020, is when the count begins. We will have the web-based up and running 2 weeks prior to that, but when that time frame comes, that is where they are to be counted. So if they're at a residence at the community college, they will be counted there. If they're at home, they will be counted there. We will also be reaching out, and that's also part of what I do, is reach out to the unified school districts, the colleges, the universities, to make sure that we have a complete engagement of the entire community. Also faith-based organizations, community-based organizations. We reach out to everyone, hospitals, everyone. So hopefully with the meshing of all of that information, people will know when it is appropriate for them to consider themselves ready to be counted on April 1st. Any other question? Nope.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, there's one.
okay.
You know,
Sure.
I've always got questions.
Well, I was,
I'm an academic.
you're slow on the draw, but can go for it.
I'm trying to give Leonard a chance to ask a question, so. You got it
He's
already.
got it.
Okay.
Sure.
I mean, this is fundamentally important to our governance structure. And so I commend you for being part of the process. Having said that, I don't fully understand it, even though I'm the oldest guy up here, and so I've probably been involved with it more than any of the rest of them. How does this work? You say it's primarily web-based. I know a lot of people that are not on the web.
Yes.
And so 2 questions. When is this going to happen? 2020, I know, but that's 12 months. And how is it going to happen?
The web will be up, the web-based format that will be available for people to begin getting counted
So am
will
I
be
going
up.
to get prompted on the web then?
Yes, there will be information sent out. So in our collection of information, we jot down people's emails to make sure that we know who is comfortable with being contacted as soon as the web-based system is up. Officially, April 1st is the day that the count begins. That's when the count begins.
Okay.
So officially, April 1st, you'll see numerous amounts of media, advertising it, letting everybody know to count themselves. The way that we're going to do it is this. There's a collaboration that will be done between, of course, cities, which are the local governments, unified school districts, community colleges, universities, libraries. The idea is to have this meshing of collaboration so that we can provide web-based locations for people who don't have access, let's say, to the internet, or who choose not to have access to the internet. I know of quite a few residents that I work with in Rialto that choose not to be. They don't want an email. They don't want any web interaction. Those individuals will receive a ballot in the mail, and that ballot they can fill out physically and send it in. The ballot will still be available no matter what, but the web base will be predominantly what you will see advertised throughout the entire county of San Bernardino through a large media-based type advertising that will be occurring. Because we've got everybody collaborating, UCR, Cal State San Bernardino, all of the cities surrounding you will be collaborating as well, and we share resources. So we will have centers as well. Inland Empire Complete Count Committee is looking currently, I'm also a member of that, we're looking at a way to provide locations within the cities that have, for example, a large population of elderly, because they need a little bit more assistance getting on the web and getting logged in. We want to provide those centers in those locations. And that is the purpose of the Complete Count Committee, is to strategically design the outreach for your community, for Loma Linda, which will be different than what we will do in San Bernardino, which will be different than what we're going to do in Rialto. And so that's the purpose of the Complete Count Committee, is to provide that strategic, very customized outreach for your community, for your residents.
I've done my share of research, and this sounds like an incredible, complex assessment of many variables.
Mm-hmm.
Who manages the research? Why should we have confidence in this?
Obviously, we have the U.S. Census Bureau, which is the organization, the agency that I represent. But I am in contact and always in communication with the California Census 2020. Okay, I will provide all of these contacts to your representatives as well, and your Complete Count Committee will know. We have a representative that handles our area in California. We also have the county, which is on board and part of that committee. We also have other officials. We have people from various elected officials' offices, making sure that the information is funneled to the right personnel. And we hold these meetings at least once a month currently.
And ultimately, there is a triangulation of the data to eliminate duplication and
That's right.
so forth.
That's right. That's right. And the Inland Empire Complete Count Committee has a special department that will be handling Inland Empire completely. So for example, because I'm a committee member there, I show up to the meetings, I provide them with the events that we're having in Loma Linda and surrounding communities, and then they provide that into the database so that everybody knows what's available in case that they happen to be in Loma Linda and want to get information, or they happen to be out in San Bernardino and want to get information. Yes, that type of triangulation of information is occurring currently, and I think we're doing an excellent job, honestly. The contact between the federal, the state, and the local communities and the counties is very, very close. I've been doing this, I mentioned to Jarb, I started doing this last year while I was still working for the city of Chino. And I started doing it because I felt so passionate about it. And I did it on my own time, and I reached out to a lot of these elected officials and people that work officially in the Census Bureau, both state and federal. And that's how I ended up sort of getting brought in, because I have a lot of connections, and that is why I've been assigned to San Bernardino County for that reason.
So as citizen, Loma Linda citizen number 2,324. How am I going to know this is happening? Is it going to be through the internet, telephone? Is Jarb going to come to my door, or the mayor going to come shake my hand? How's this going to happen?
No, we're going to be holding events. The web-based is going to be where we are going to collect everything. So Inland Empire Complete Count Committee is generating the web-based that will have all of the events that are going on. But individual people getting counted, that will be up to the partnership specialists working with the Complete Count Committees, making sure that we've already had events in certain areas that are tailored to that area, of course, and that we had the outreach that we needed to. If the outreach didn't function for whatever reason, we always can come back and do a second event.
Okay.
That's the purpose of the active Complete Count Committee, is to do that.
Well, the stakes are incredibly high on a census, so I commend you for your. Are you getting paid for this, or
I am now getting paid for it.
Oh,
yes.
Okay, good for you. Good for you.
Yes,
well,
I am
I'm
now.
sure it's you're not going to get rich doing this, but I commend you for your patriotism to get involved with this, because it is so critically important. Thank you.
It is. Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. Any other questions? No?
And your 3 minutes are up.
Yes, they are. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Our next 3 minutes is Heather Perry.
Good evening, Mayor Rigsby and council members. I just realized I grabbed the wrong public service announcement and a pile of them to put back on the counter with your permission. I thought I was grabbing the VoIP, the reverse 911. Apparently this is the Nixle, so it doesn't quite do what I intended on speaking about tonight. I will tell you, but unfortunately it won't have the correct sign up. So I'm sure, as Councilman Duper knows, that there is a reverse 911 robocall that the county will call out in case of emergency. Now, most people don't realize that it only calls landlines. It's only registered with landlines. If you have a cell phone, you need to contact the county. You can do it online, and you can also call 211 and register that way. And it's important in cases like what just happened with the earthquake. They would send out notifications: don't drink the water, you need to boil it, updates, things like that to people that they might not be able to get easily. It also, in case of flooding, fires, if there are people that work down here that live up in Forest Falls, Angeles Oaks, Big Bear possibly, not knowing what's going on in their community, being able to get those updates via their cell phone would help them be able to maybe get back before they're stuck down here, like some of the Forest Falls residents were during the flood, and Angeles Oaks residents. That was one of the items. Another one is, as some of you may know, the Community Development Housing Department is holding a meeting here tomorrow, 2 p.m., on the county's county's HUD 5-year consolidated plan. So in case you didn't know, there's that, or if anybody in the audience is something that they would be interested in knowing. It does require community involvement, so if anybody wanted to hear what the plans were. And then the last thing I have, and it actually ends on Friday, is the Community's Children Succeed Backpack and School Supplies Drive. It will end July 12th, and I have flyers if people want to donate any of the items for the backpacks or the backpacks themselves. And with your permission, I'd put it on the back counter. Okay, and that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like to speak on any non-agenda item? No takers, then we'll go ahead to item number 1 and proceed with the discussion of our roundabout, proposed roundabout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you remember, about 4 months ago, I presented you with kind of my own design of the roundabout. And being I'm not an expert in the design of roundabout, we've retained the service from Piers, Fair and Piers, and the service of our traffic engineer, Jason Pack. Jason? Where's Jason? Oh, right here. And Jason, he's a traffic engineer specialized in design of roundabout. And I would like him to present his design and why we should do the roundabout. So, Jason?
All right. Thank you, Jarb. Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here and present on this. Just a little bit of background. I've started looking at roundabouts roughly 19 years ago up in Northern California. And here in Southern California, I relocated here to Riverside back in 2008. When I first came here, everybody talked about roundabouts like the ones out in Morongo or the roundabout out in Long Beach. So I want to make sure we're clear. This roundabout is a lot better designed than both of those. I'm not a big fan of the Morongo ones. They've got some path overlap issues where you have to change lanes, as well as some pitch issues. And the Long Beach one is just a free-for-all. So I would not classify either of those as real modern-day roundabouts. And we'll walk through the design that we've developed here specifically for the city of Loma Linda. So just a quick overview of what I'm going to talk about. I'll try and keep this short so we can take some questions. Thought I'd give a quick definition of a roundabout. Don't want to spend much time on it. But there are clearly benefits that I want to make sure that we discuss tonight. The second one, just a brief background on the location. I'm sure you guys are all well aware of it, but just reaffirmation of things that we took into account when looking at it. And then I'll end on our proposed design and then open it up to questions from the council. So just a quick definition of what is a roundabout. So when you think about current modern day roundabouts, it's a circle intersection. It's all yield control on entry. So we're not controlling traffic with a stop sign or a traffic signal. It's a yield type control, and therefore the roundabout is serving as a traffic control device. We have splitter islands on our entries or channelized access. And each design component of a roundabout is very, very intentional. So how we lay it out controls a variety of aspects, including your entry speed, how fast you circulate around the roundabout, what our exit speeds are, and it's very, very intentional to make sure each of those is designed correctly to make sure that the roundabout, number one, functions well, but two, that it's safe for people to navigate when entering it. So when we started looking at this specific roundabout, it was really borderline between whether you needed a single lane roundabout or multiple lanes to serve some of the future traffic volumes, and I'll get into that here in a minute. But this is an example of a single lane roundabout that we developed, in which you can see splitter islands running into it, the circle here in the center island. We typically mount some mountable curb area in the interior. That way fire trucks can mount it, but we've still got enough deflection to control the single passenger car speeds to navigate that well. We put the pedestrian crosswalk typically 25 feet back from the yield line. That's very intentional so we can maximize the visibility of pedestrians to a roundabout. So again, each of these are very, very deliberate when we design a roundabout. Here's a spiral stripe roundabout where we've got a 2-lane cross section on part of it and then a single lane section on part of it. Very similar on a lot of the design. We've got the center island, we've got the splitter islands at each of the approaches, as well as the crosswalks. And again, you can see this is very different than the previous one, as every geometric feature affects the design of a roundabout as we go through it. It's very, very intentional. So the number one question I always get asked, and keep in mind, although I feel like I've worked on well over 100 roundabouts throughout the western United States, I'm not a roundabout advocate. I'm an equal opportunity traffic control person. If a signal is the best control, I recommend a signal. If it's a stop sign, I recommend a stop sign. If it's a roundabout, I recommend a roundabout. But one of the benefits that we get for a roundabout and why they're becoming more and more popular is safety. So when you look at a roundabout, and I really like this graphic, when we start looking at the individual conflict points in a roundabout, for all conflict points, we have 16 conflict points in a traditional single-lane roundabout. When we look at a traditional traffic signal, 8-phase traffic signal, we have roughly 56 conflict points. So when you start thinking about severity of collisions, safety of an intersection, the reduction in number of conflict points make roundabouts safer, as well as when you enter a roundabout, your speed tends to be lower than traversing through a signalized intersection. And when you do have a collision at this location, it tends to be a glancing blow. As opposed to a signal, we get T-bones and other more severe collisions. So this is why we're seeing them more and more and more, are the clear safety benefits that it does provide. So that's just a little background on roundabouts. So when we look at this specific location, the intersection that Jarb asked us to look at is really Anderson Street at Mound Street, located right here. Loma Linda University, the hospital expansion project's going on right here. And there are a lot of unique features specific to this intersection. The main direction of travel is to maintain on Anderson Street when we look at traffic flows. There's a lot of pedestrian activity in this area that we saw, and then a lot of other design considerations, including the SBX route that travels through this specific intersection. So when we go to lay out a roundabout, we take all that into consideration. So we met with the fire chief here, got the fire vehicle type that would go through the roundabout to make sure that we designed it so that a fire engine could traverse it and make all turn movements through the roundabout. We got the specific dimensions for the SBX BRT line, make sure that we could facilitate the turning movements that it needed to make. And then also bicycles, pedestrians. This is my alma mater. I'm a UC Davis graduate, so big into bicycles there. So we wanted to make sure that we accommodated those as best as we could with the design. So I'll end on this slide. Yes.
Did you also check standard roughly 40-foot coaches that are not articulated?
Yeah. So those would be able to, so those actually have, like on a motorhome.
Or like a bus.
Or a box truck, yeah.
RTC.
So those typically have better turning radii than the fire truck. So yeah, that we always choose the design vehicle that will be the most difficult to get through. So these would be more difficult to traverse this than a box truck or like an RV and a passenger car. All right, so I'm going to walk you through the design, and keep in mind every element on this proposed schematic is very, very intentional to control specific components. So I'll start coming this direction on Anderson, eastbound direction, I'll call it. So we do have the parking as well as a bike lane identified here, and we've got 2 travel lanes that come into the roundabout. The number 1 lane, or your inside lane, will allow you to come through the roundabout and either make a left turn or go straight, or make a right turn. It's a little difficult to see, but there's a light gray line in here that's demarcating the 2 lanes, 2 receiving lanes from that approach, so that we have this free right turn. Again, this is the major vehicular turning movement, going up to Tippecanoe and accessing the freeway up there. So we wanted to keep that capacity. We've designed this so our entry and exit speeds are around 20 miles per hour, which is about the same speed as a bicycle, 15 to 20 miles per hour. So when we design roundabouts, a bicyclist that's in this lane has the option to either stay in the right turn lane or get over to the through lane to continue where they want to go. Or when we get to the multi-lane sections, we've actually added I call it a bicycle bailout. So it's basically like an ADA ramp for bicycles. So if you have somebody, and my wife or my kids fall into this category, if they're riding their bicycle, they have the option to come up here and ride on the sidewalk and then re-access into the bicycle lane on the other side of the roundabout if they don't feel comfortable doing that. So it's just an added accommodation we have there. You can see we've got the high visibility pedestrian crosswalk set back from the roundabout. So essentially we can have a car waiting here to enter the roundabout on yield control, and they're not interfering with that pedestrian, which increases the visibility of the pedestrian. And then moving on to the northbound approach, we've kept the crosswalk that currently exists here at this location. And we've got dual lanes coming in the northbound direction to facilitate the dual lefts to continue on Anderson Street. And then there is a faint gray line that's not showing up very well here on this graphic, but you can see it comes up, and there you can see it a little better up here, but continues through the roundabout. So I do apologize. That's just a resolution issue. But otherwise, similar treatments. We've got the bicycle bailout here, so if somebody doesn't feel comfortable riding in the roundabout, they can go up onto the wider sidewalk and access it that way. In the westbound direction, this is a very low volume approach, so we've got a single lane approach, and it can access any of these turning movements, and similarly coming down Hill Drive to access the roundabout. We also worked with JARB and city staff to really look at some additional treatments to really highlight the pedestrian, because again, we did see quite a bit of pedestrian activity in this area. So we have put in an identification for some enhanced pedestrian warning signs, rapid rectangular flashing beacons, just so that when a pedestrian's present, it becomes more visible to the drivers here. A couple other components. It's probably easiest to see this is we always want to set driver expectations coming into a roundabout, particularly on high volume approaches. So you can see that we've pulled the curb in here really to deflect that car a little bit inward. Kind of like when you exit a freeway, we've got that gore point, so you're recognizing that you're exiting a freeway system and entering a local road system. For roundabouts, we do something similar where we'll deflect them in just to create a little bit of a narrowing and change the expectation that drivers should be driving slower. So we've incorporated that here in the eastbound direction, and then a little bit here too, where we've increased that median depth just to deflect the cars a little bit to set their expectation to drive this area a little bit slower. So this is the conceptual design that we've developed. We wanted to share it with you tonight. I'm here to take questions, and I think I covered everything, Jarb.
Yes, I want to let you know that we came up with two concepts, one with and one without the bicycle lane. So with the bicycle lane, it will require more right-of-way, which in this case from the university. We might have to take away some of the parking. And so the one without the bicycle lane will take less property from the university. The existing Anderson Street right now from University Court to Prospect has no bicycle lane. So, and that's something that I have to present this to the university to see if they're willing to provide us with the right-of-way so that we could put in the bicycle lane in there. So,
question.
So with that, I think I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, you said that there were 8 points of contact with a single lane.
Yeah.
Do you know what the number is for a
single lane
double lane?
Roundabout?
What the number for a double lane is, and what the number is for a bike lane?
Yeah, so the bike lane, we've essentially removed some of those conflicts by providing this bailout if people tend to use it. Otherwise, you would essentially add a conflict point here where the bicycle would merge with traffic. So in this particular case, we'd have one conflict point there and then another one back here where they would enter. So we'd add 2 more, so that would take it to 18. And then we'd get another conflict point 1, 2, 3. We'd add another 4 with the second lane. So 22 conflict points, which is still less than half of a traditional signalized intersection. So, and that's one thing when we do consider multi-lane roundabouts, you know, they do increase the number of conflict points. So we try to stick with single lane roundabouts whenever possible because of the safety benefits tied to it. But you do have pretty high demand for this movement, and then with the hospital expansion that's currently under construction just to the south of here, we want to make sure we kept a little bit of that capacity for those vehicles. Mm-hmm.
I guess you have no comment on what decorations we put in the center.
I am a traffic engineer, so typically landscape architects do a lot of that. I will say, I was talking to Jarb about this beforehand, you want to have something in the middle that is high enough so you try to prevent what we call run-throughs. So where people come this direction and you don't see the island and they run through the middle of it. So you want some sort of a horizontal element, but you don't want such a huge horizontal element where it blocks the visibility to be able to see vehicles and pedestrians in the roundabout. So typically landscape architects take the lead on that, but we tend to end up with something that kind of varies in size, but tends to be 3-4 feet off the ground in a mound type shape. Sometimes you can do public art in the middle, as long as it's kind of focused in the middle and it's not too huge. But yeah, usually landscape architects take the lead on that. Yeah, definitely no fountains. There was a famous roundabout in Florida that was installed. Giant fountain went in.
Because the wind blew that.
Water splashed on the windshields, and then people turned their windshield wipers on. Bugs in Florida got smeared, and then people couldn't see, and then collisions came up. So it's kind of a famous case of why roundabouts were unsafe. Had nothing to do with the roundabout. Had everything to do with the fountain in the middle. But
would a gold bust of Mayor Rigsby fit in there okay? Yeah,
spinning or something.
He could just have his speeches just running on a continuous loop. I might have zoned out.
Then everyone will fall asleep through the intersection.
That's true. That's right. So that may be a traffic hazard. So these are crosswalks away back from the roundabout?
Yeah, so here we set the crosswalks back, and we do this intentionally. So it's about 25 feet from the limit line, which allows one vehicle that's waiting to enter the roundabout. So if there's a vehicle coming through on this leg and this person's waiting to enter, vehicles tend to be about 20 feet of space when they're queued up. So a vehicle is essentially sitting here, and then you've got the pedestrian behind the vehicle. So that way it maximizes visibility for people coming, in this case, the northbound direction. They're here and they're not being obscured by the vehicle. So it maximizes their visibility.
And so there's no lights or stops or anything?
You definitely want to have lights above. We want to positive light of the pedestrian so people can see them.
No, I mean if somebody comes flying around the corner to make a right turn, and all of a sudden there's somebody in the crosswalk.
Yeah, so that's why we've added this option down here where you add those rapid rectangular flashing beacons, and I think you have them, one intersection down here to the south where it's the rectangular lights that strobe. So if you have a vehicle coming this direction when they're exiting, they should be able to see that. There's a pretty good sight distance to the pedestrian. And again, it's a roundabout, so people shouldn't be driving 50 miles per hour through this. We've designed this to try and manage the speed entering and exiting to be slower to help improve the reaction time and visibility of that pedestrian.
So basically, sorry to hog the time here, but basically 2 lanes, as in each entry point there's 2 lanes, and so there's sufficiently far back, there's warning to get into this lane.
Correct.
And the other, and then you just kind of...
Correct. And you can see we advanced stripe everything. So a well-designed roundabout, like in this particular case, you see the signage and the striping, and you know from this lane I can make a right, go through, or make a left. And if you just follow the striping in the roundabout, in the lane you're in, just follow the lines, you end up where you want to go. So that's how this is laid out. That's how we design, how well-designed roundabouts should function, which is not how the Morongo ones function, just so we're clear.
Can you comment on as I will describe it, the pedestrian crossings on Yucaipa Boulevard in Yucaipa, where they have zigzag paths for pedestrians? And I presume it's because they don't want the pedestrians darting across both lanes, all 4 lanes, and they force them to take a turn and then go straight again.
Is that at a roundabout? Or
at a roundabout.
Yeah, so I've helped Yucaipa peer review some of their roundabouts. So sometimes on the center median, we'll do a zigzag crosswalk. That's actually for visually impaired. So it's helpful for a visually impaired person when they're walking across the street to recognize when they need to stop listening from traffic coming from their left and start listening to traffic coming from the right. So we do a Z, I call it a Z cross, or a Z curb cut essentially here on the island. Those aren't quite as we'll say necessary now. ADA requires us to put, we call them truncated domes, the yellow mats with the raised domes on them. So those provide that cue for a visually impaired person, as those truncated domes would be located here. But before, when we used to just score concrete, or before scoring even, those Z crosswalks were really helpful for the visually impaired people. I thought he always had comments.
Yeah,
He told me he always does, but, okay.
Yeah, no, it's true.
So if there are no further,
my
it's just
background.
informational, right?
Yeah,
We're not voting
right,
on this
right.
tonight.
Eventually you will. What I'd like to see is to see if you approve this concept, then further on the agenda is to hire a civil engineer to, based on this design, to come up with a civil engineer design, plan and profile and traffic striping and so forth. And then we a separate contract for a landscape architect to come up with the design for landscaping and so forth. In addition to that, I will try to schedule a meeting with, what committee is that? Master Planning Committee at the university to present this design concept to them. And so that, because we could take away a lot of their parking spaces, and then we had to redo their parking and the parking lot.
You're
and so
asking us to approve this without a landscape plan.
I will come back for the landscape. Right now, if you approve the concept,
It'll be contingent.
yes, sir.
Upon-
Oh, yes,
okay.
sir. Definitely, I will. This is important. I will.
Because that was one of my questions.
Yes, sir, I will.
You saw me raise my hand
Yes,
and
yes.
anticipated what I was going to.
And in addition to that, art in public place that will put in the median, I will bring it to this body to review and
Okay.
approve.
So 2 or 3 questions. I'm sorry you left, but first is a comment, which is, I grew up in the 50s and 60s in Singapore, which dates me, obviously, but most intersections, what? Yeah, all right, yeah, I was one of the originals.
That was a good one.
But nearly all intersections were roundabouts, or what we now call circles, and that's 50s and 60s. So this is not a new concept. This has been around for a long, long time. And if you drive in England, these get interesting when you're on the wrong side of the road and so forth. But at any rate, I see medians in the different roads that currently do not exist.
You are correct.
Is that an accurate perception?
That is an accurate perception. We
And
have,
what are those medians going to look like? Are they going to be stone? Are they going to be weeds? Are they going to be? That's part of, okay. And part of what you're also saying is the landscaping within the, Singapore, we called them circles, but now it's a roundabout, I guess, but it'll include that. And who's going to be responsible for maintenance of that? You will be. So I can drive by on a Sunday and see you out pulling weeds.
Not quite that, but we're going to hire a contractor and just specialize.
Okay. Okay. Because that's you can anticipate me, I know. That's a major issue for me, because we've got a lot of weeds in a lot of places right now. And
the whole idea is I want this area to look pretty, and we want to make it look nice.
But this is a city project.
Yes, this is a
And
city
we're
project.
seeking the
Yes.
collaboration with the university.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Otherwise, I like roundabouts. I mean, I've been in a lot of different cities, and they have them, and I think it smooths out traffic flows, so I'm very supportive of this. What's our action tonight? Are we here to support this, or is this a? Where is it? What is it?
8F.
8? F?
F. Under award of contract, engineering services for Stewart Street to Barton Road pavement rehab roundabout at the intersection of Anderson and Miles Street.
Oh, okay, but that's in the consent calendar.
H1. Yes, so you will.
Oh, I see it, got it.
H1 is the discussion.
Okay, got it, all right.
8F is the action.
Yep.
So we'll
So
get
when
to
it's
it.
appropriate, I'm ready to
Yeah.
move it.
Okay, is there anything else you want to talk about on item 1? At this rate, we'll be here 12 hours and 45 minutes.
Hey, you're getting paid, Mayor, so no problem.
By the hour.
That's right.
And one more thing, funding for this project, 62.1% is going to come from SBCTA that you're going to approve tomorrow night, so, tomorrow morning, tomorrow
You
morning.
better be
See?
sure you got his vote, because
This is that jumping money that never seems to stick. Wherever we plan to spend that money, someone else comes in and rescues us and pays for it. So let's keep doing it. It's like magic beans or something. Yes, we confirmed that the bus that my daughter ran into can make the corner. She rammed it hard and totaled her car and didn't even scratch the bus. She tried hard, though.
Did all the passengers on the bus rush out to help?
And they all rushed out and took pictures so that their neck injuries could be... Anyway. Okay. Yeah, there were 2. It was exactly 2.
we're at
I
the
used
end
to-
of the line. We're
I
at the
used
end of
to
the
I
line.
used to joke that the bus service here is so convenient because it always has a number on the front showing how many passengers. And then I found it was route number 2.
We're at the end of the line. We're at the end of the line.
I think people on those buses have more square footage than the average homeowner per person. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're done with item number 1. Item number 2, a public hearing, 2019 spring weed abatement.
Just so I understand, this is not an action item, then?
Number 1, no, sir.
No, 8F is the action for the
Okay.
discussion under 1.
Okay.
So weed abatement, fire department, please.
Good evening, council and staff. My name is Tom. I'm the helpful, friendly fire inspector for the city of Loma Linda. I'm here to give a brief presentation on the 2019 spring weed abatement. I started it in April 1st, or excuse me, March 25th was the first inspection I did throughout the city. We sent out, I inspected about 435 parcels. I sent out notices to property owners on April 1st. Went back out the week of April 16th to the 17th. Did my second follow-up inspection, and then after the follow-up inspection, there was 24 parcels left for the our contractor to go out and abate. And then on June 10th, we sent out the invoices to property owners for payment for the abatement costs. And then tonight, here we are to place the parcels that you have in front of you to the lien and assessment for the county tax roll.
So has the abatement already occurred?
Yes, sir. Yep, it occurred between the city contractor had anywhere from about April 16th to about the first week of June to conduct the abatement. Yes, sir.
Okay. I just get frustrated to see repeat customers on this thing, but I guess I'll get over it. Is Lewis Investment Company, is that Lewis Homes?
That I'm not sure, sir. We get our data from
Is
the
it?
county assessor's office. I really don't have an idea of, it's just based on the APN numbers.
So Lewis Homes isn't maintaining their property?
Yep, that's Redlands Boulevard. Right by the new VA clinic.
And we do have, and I think it's been brought up before, that some of these repeat customers, it's just less expensive for them
I
to
understand.
use
I
use the
understand.
bulk abatement than to hire independents.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we need to raise our fees.
Well, we did that once. That's where it went from the, now we're charging the administrative fees is included in the abatement cost if they don't do it themselves, and that's where it's 70% for the $100.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we need to open the public hearing. I'm opening it with the customary hammer blow. And that woke up the two people. We have one request for discussion from Intithar Elias.
Good evening, council members and honorable mayor. I'm nervous even though I'm a teacher, so please forgive me just to break the ice. It was nice to hear from somebody in the Census Bureau. It is the Census Bureau actually that caused the birth of a company that today we call IBM. I used to teach computer science, and this is one of the historic facts. It took more than 10 years to tally the census, and in 1880, 1890, they realized by the time 10 years come by, it's time for the next census, and they still don't have the figures from the last one. So I put it out for bids, and a small company called the Tab Machine Company came up with these little cards that today we call the IBM cards. I don't think they use them anymore. But I learned to program Fortran on those cards, and it's kind of interesting how history, American ingenuity. I'm here to appeal what happened to my property. I've been a resident of Loma Linda since 1972, owned property since 75. I've owned this particular lot since 1982 or 83, I cannot remember. I bought it with the dream of building my house over there. Thanks to ever-rising costs, the fees and whatever and building costs just are outside my affordability bubble. So far I haven't built it. Last year, the rain started fairly early, so in October of 2018, I hit the property with something called Surfland, which is a pre-emergent weed killer or weed suppressant. I think it acted as a fertilizer because with the wonderful rains we had, it kind of caused things to get worse. In mid-January or early February, I mowed it again. And actually, I didn't mow it in October. There was nothing there. In January or February, 1st of February, I mowed it. I have the dates written here, 1st of February. And the 3rd week of March, I mowed it again. I was surprised when a week or 10 days later, I received my notice to clean the property. So I said, all right, I'll do it. I went and looked. It wasn't ready to be mowed. So I made a phone call to Mr. Ingalls, or Captain Ingalls, I'm sorry. I said that here's the property number, here's my phone number. Please check it right now because these weeds are on steroids. If you wait till the 15th, who knows what they look like. I want to make sure that you approve it. If not, let me know. But and just FYI, I'll be doing it in the middle of summer again, which is what I always do every year. I did not hear back. I assumed everything is okay. On June 13, I received an invoice for mowing the lot, or actually it said for disking the lot, which it was not disked. It was just mowed simply. And there were supporting pictures from the contractor, a before and after picture. The pictures were taken 6 weeks after I had mowed the lot. And yeah, it's a big difference. I have a picture taken yesterday, 6 weeks after May 28th, and the lot looks just as bad or worse than it did on the 28th. I mean, I'm sorry, these weeds are on steroids. It's been a wonderful bumper year for rain. We thank God for the rain. We need the water. But I just wasn't prepared. To my knowledge, I've done nothing wrong. I really wanted to, obey the laws of the city I live in. I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. I'm a Christian. I believe in doing the right thing. But $210 for mowing the lot and administrative fees, that's outrageous. I pay $30 for a guy to come. He uses my lawnmower. He mows the whole thing, and it's all done. Little stubble like grass. So I'd like to appeal if possible. Thank you very much.
Can I see the pictures before and after? The one the contractor did.
The contractor did before and after. I don't have one from April, but I have one from yesterday. This is June 8th. This is yesterday. This is June 13th, and this is July 8th. June 13th, July 8th.
Yeah.
So what is the schedule for you having your property mowed?
My schedule is when they grow. And I do it at random, but I
How
make
often?
sure that before April, because I'm aware that they inspect it. So I try to, before April, I try to get it all looking nice.
Is this,
Yeah, okay, so after, go ahead.
is this the entire lot, or is it just a small portion of it?
It's a quarter acre, it's 75 or 150 feet.
So this is pretty much takes in the whole thing?
Street, there's no vista up there.
Yeah, okay.
And the palm trees that you see are actually not grown on my lot, they're grown in the sidewalk of the city.
Mhm.
I cannot remove them because I have to dig up the city's pavement.
Mm.
I have no idea how to remove those palm trees, but they're grown straight out of the pavement. They're correct between the pavement and the concrete.
Wow.
The-
Anybody else want to see them?
So what's your criteria? You probably ought to go back to the mic.
Well,
so
what
people-
I would like to know from the fire department, what constitutes too high grass? Is there like a, is there a threshold?
Before, I was told 4 inches.
Is there a threshold, and on what date is it checked? And
Yes, sir. There's really not a criteria on the actual height of the grass. But yeah, 4 inches is kind of the criteria that we take on dry weeds. I think I provided documents with the contractor's pictures, his invoice, and the invoice that he received. Just to give you a little bit more background how the process goes. Like I said, and I gave this gentleman tonight our schedule for both the spring and the fall when we go out and conduct the inspections. The spring, we're on a tighter deadline because we have to get these properties and assessments from both the fall 2018 and the spring 2019 to the county assessor's office to put them on the tax rolls in a timely fashion. And I have to give, proper notice to the property owners, plus give the contractor ample time to do the abatement himself. So we're on a tighter deadline in the spring. I wish I knew, when it was going to rain. It did rain late in the season. There is some grow back issues this year because of the late rain we had. And then I kind of explained to him, I gave him the schedule of kind of a rough estimate of when I do in the spring and the fall, as well as on the notice, it gives you the option to call to do a 2-week extension. So these are all the individuals who called for a 2-week extension in the city. And yeah, that's pretty much what I have on this case.
well, my issue with this one is, first of all, before I built my house, it was a horrendous job that filled my mouth with dirt to go over my property with a weed whacker, and I would gladly have paid what the price was. But this one is a flat property with weeds that are maybe 15 inches high, and it's you said a quarter acre?
150 by 75 feet, whatever that makes it. I think that
Okay.
makes it just under a quarter.
It's probably between a quarter and a half.
And there's sparse weeds at this point because they've been mowed several times.
Yeah, see, I thought the rates that were charged back when I was doing it were a bargain. And if I had known what the rates were, I would have taken them up on it. But this looks to me like they're claiming 6 man-hours to mow a quarter acre of flat ground. And I could mow it with a pair of scissors in 6 hours.
Sure.
So I'm a bit concerned about our contractor.
Okay.
Have you guys seen it? What do you think?
Your Honor, it states over here, disc the property, which it wasn't, but Mr. Engels, or I'm sorry, Captain Engels explained to me that they consider disking and mowing one and the same, which to me they're not.
Yeah, I spoke with the contractor to follow up after he actually came to the counter a couple weeks ago to explain, his issues. So I followed up with the contractor. The contractor ate crow and said he kind of what a lot of other people does, copy and paste from a previous invoice, and he forgot to delete discs out of another invoice that he had. But the dollar figure, the 210 hours, has nothing to do with disking or weeding or mowing the property. Mowing and disking in his contract is $100 an hour. This is, like you said, for 6 man-hours. He puts 2 people for 2 hours at a time. That's how he came up with the figure of $210.
Yeah, it just seems like he's either the slowest mower in the world or he's exaggerating and padding his invoice.
Sure.
So I don't, to me, I don't know, you guys look at it, but, I've run a mower all my life, and that's just kind of amazing.
I don't want to defend, but sometimes doctors get paid a lot of money for little work, so that's okay. Sometimes government costs a lot of money to run. We've been in it for a long time.
This is a contract rate.
Not to...
The government added 70%. I'm talking about the contractor himself.
To me, I think it's a standard rate that everybody gets charged, and I know that it is high compared to you mowing your own lawn, but clearly, if you're not able to do it on a timely fashion and we end up having to do it, unfortunately, it becomes a lot more expensive.
Yeah, but I think we could get a better contract.
The other thing to consider here is I think our resident has exercised his right to challenge this, but this isn't the forum. So we should really stop commenting on this, because at some point it could ultimately end up before us. And I'm surprised we haven't got that. So he can make the appeal right now without that being agendized?
It's a public hearing.
No, I understand, but the process to appeal a citation goes through an administrative process through the city, and ultimately could end up here just like a personnel matter. So I just want us to be careful. I think he has absolutely that right, and he's indicated he wants to do that, but it might even be handled by staff and may not even have to get to this level, as we typically do in this city. We're not very harsh.
Might be that the discussion has less to do with him, and maybe the mayor's concerned that we're overcharging, period.
And it might apply to all the rest of the properties as well.
And my appeal is basically, what did I do wrong? Where did I go wrong?
Okay, so let me try to address that.
Thank you.
See, this is where we're going to get into a difference of opinion here, and this is going to drag out. That's why I'm just trying to shorten it for sake of...
I'll respect your decision. I might not agree.
No, sir. The point is, I don't think we can... My opinion, I'm not hearing anything here, but I'm not sure that we can make specific decision on your case right now without you addressing it at the city level first.
Well, tonight before you is the opportunity in the public hearing for them to contest the imposition of the lien on the property, and the gentleman as an appellant can do that tonight, and you can consider the arguments that he raises and waive or adjust the imposition of the lien on that basis.
All right.
In order to speed this up, I would move that we move forward with everyone on that list with the exception of him, get a second, and then we can have a discussion as to how we proceed next.
I would agree with that, and I would even take it a step further. No one else took the time to come here.
So therefore, that's why I'm using that argument. Yes.
I agree.
So therefore, I'd be willing to give him the opportunity to further resolve it with the city, with everyone else moving forward. And then I just make that motion, and then we can discuss further as to how we want to.
Well,
I'll second that.
Well, before you do that, let's find out if there's anybody else here who didn't turn in a slip. Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
If they haven't, they shouldn't be talking.
We have a system. It's a public hearing. You don't have to turn in a slip for a public hearing.
Can I just open debate for anybody to come show up? I mean, we have a system. You turn it into the clerk if you don't have it in.
It's a public hearing.
Fine. Anybody else? Go ahead.
Is there anyone else who would like to contest or comment on the entire process? There's no one. So now your motion is in order.
Thank you.
And your second is in order. So is there any further discussion?
There is. Mr. Elias, I would... No, Ron, we're going to take him out of it, and we're going to address him separately.
But he has a right to express his...
Oh, no, but I just wanted to let Ron know that was what... That's what I was trying to do, so we can then talk about... I'm in support of the motion to cut you some slack on this, because there's some confusion. So that's the way I'll vote. I support the motion. However, keep your weeds mowed. That's what it comes down to. This isn't complicated. But then, what constitutes a weed? How high do they have to be? And one of the challenges we have in this city is with the drought, people have taken that as license to let their weeds grow. And we see it in many places in the city. You're not the only guy. But you happen to have an open lot, which makes you susceptible to the inspections. So I'm okay if, you know, there was some confusion, and we'll take the hit on that. But keep them mowed. 6 weeks isn't enough. If I let my lawn grow, and I've got some lawn problems right now, I can tell you, we're going to have to resod some stuff. But it's just one of the responsibilities of being a property owner. So
No, you're right.
I don't,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to get into a discussion of whether 6 inches or 15 inches or where it
The
is.
purpose is
Just
fire
keep them
control,
mowed
not
on a regular
unsightliness.
basis.
You're right, you're right.
And then I think we'll all be fine. And it's not only a fire issue, which is what we're here to discuss, but it is also an aesthetic issue. It looks bad. If weeds start growing, it looks bad.
And don't get him started on weeds.
And what?
Don't get him started on weeds.
Yeah.
Visit
You're
the
right.
sidewalks
You're
in
right.
my neighborhood, yeah.
Okay.
He's the weed man.
Yeah,
I say
you're
keep
right.
the weed
You're
away from him.
They're on
Right.
steroids this year. There's
I
no
am the
question
weed
in my
guy.
mind. They're on
Confiscate his
steroids this
weed.
year.
He was upset because they legalized weed until he found out what it was.
So fair enough? Okay.
Okay, then let's, okay, those in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. That passes unanimously. Do you want to have further discussion about his situation?
So now I think it'd be appropriate if, I would be open to making a motion, if we can do that here, to waive his fees. I think he's shown good faith in coming down here. We never get that. We've all been doing this now for multiple years. We go through this, twice a year. There's some people that flat out don't care, so I think my motion is to give him a pass. And then, of course, if we see him again, we'll reconsider at that point. But hopefully we won't.
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, is there anybody opposed? I hear no one opposed, so congratulations.
What's it?
You are off the hook.
We're going to waive your fees.
You're off the hook. We're paying your fee.
But not your house note, just the, not everything.
No, the amendment included mowing my lawn once in a while. So, other than that.
I pay somebody to do it. If
Yeah,
he needs
well.
the money,
Yeah.
you know.
Why don't you give the city the name of your contractor who can do it for 1/7 of the money?
But then when he finds out that we have to pay prevailing wages,
Still, I can't believe it takes 6 hours to mow that property.
with 3 breaks,
Yeah,
If he's Caltrans, yes.
yeah. The whole thing?
the whole thing, it's like $204.
Yeah. Yeah.
With the
Because there's a 70%
administrative
fee.
fees. Yeah.
And by the way, I'm closing the public hearing. Okay,
you very much.
congratulations.
Thank you kindly.
The only waiver in 13 years I've been on the council.
And just for the record, the motion that you passed a moment ago included the council bill R 21928, adopting the report statement of expenses, imposing the lien, and then 2B, the agreement with the county auditor controller regarding imposition of the assessment.
Agreed.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Okay, the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to amend number 13. Instead of purchase 1 truck, will be 2 trucks, the money budget for it, and we just have a little miscommunication, so it's supposed to be 2 trucks on number 13.
Does that mean now it's a Ford Ranger instead of an F-150 Super Cab?
Okay, I'm going to drive my colleagues crazy here because that's part of my job. And I want to pull, I've got questions on 3, 7, 9, 10, and 12.
Okay,
Some of
start
these will
with
be
3.
real quick. All right, 3. On the demands register, I'm trying to understand on page 4, Annexter Incorporated, tax return, and then data products, conduit. But what is all of that? I just don't understand it, and I don't recall seeing it before, but that could be my problem.
Yes.
You want to go? Yeah.
With Annexter, we have a sales tax rebate agreement with them. They are a sales tax producer, and they get a certain percentage back for what of their sales tax that they generate under that agreement. So that's that portion. The product portion is for any like LLCCP product that we purchase from them for the network.
Okay.
So.
And we've had this contract with them for a while?
Over 10 years.
We actually, we first started with Annexters for the tax rebate agreement when we had the redevelopment agency. They fulfilled the terms of that agreement, and once that was completed, then when the successor agency kind of took over, the agreements were no longer valid. So then we, as a city, they approached us and we agreed to an additional sales tax rebate agreement.
And the fees we're looking at, or the cost of this, is in line with what we've experienced in the past?
Yes.
Okay.
We hope it goes up.
I knew you'd have a good explanation, and I would have been here earlier today to ask you before the council, but anyway.
I wish we could pay them $1 billion a month. That means we get $1 billion a month.
Yeah.
So the higher, the better.
All right. Let me get
Number
this.
7.
Number 7. I'm trying to get there. And I guess this is directed to the fire chief. Self-contained breathing apparatus, we've been using Titan 2 MSA. And that, if I'm reading this correctly, over half of SCBAs do not meet NFPA standards. I don't know what that means, but if they don't meet the standards, then why have we been working with them?
At one time, they met the standard. It's basically, they have a lifespan. And several years ago, there was a large countywide grant that most fire departments got on, and they all went to the MSA type SCBA. Unfortunately, we had just purchased the Titan at that time, and therefore we weren't allowed to be part of that grant at that time because all our stuff was too new. So now, fast forward, several years later, we're now with the Titan, which are now prepared to be.
So in other words, we were waiting for that contract to expire.
So so we were waiting basically for our SCBAs to age and no longer be up to the NFPA standards anymore. And so we're at the point now where the majority. So we still have enough to be operating. What we're doing now is replacing about half of our of what we have, and then next year we'll probably replace the second half because then it will be prepared to be replaced. And so, I mean, it's usable right now, but it needs to be replaced.
Okay, and is the health of our firefighters at risk here?
No, not at all. Like I said, some of this stuff is new enough that everybody has the standard of what they need. Yeah. It's just that basically we're at the point where we need to start moving in a direction of either doing costly repairs to some of those, and it's getting harder to find parts for some of those, and Titan is their product is expensive to upgrade, and so really, talking with our SCBA guy, we came to the decision that rather than investing a lot of money to try to keep those going over the next few years, it's better to just do a replacement and move to a different type.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're fine as far as today, but we need to. This will be a project that'll be go over several months, and over time, we'll be replacing what isn't, and then it'll transition.
Okay. Thank you. Good answer. I appreciate the information.
You're welcome.
Number 9.
What's that?
Number 9.
Number 9. Let me get to it. Number 9, I think, is actually number 9 and 10 are very easy. once I get there, but I think that the council bill numbers are not accurate, and I'm not sure if they're not. If I look at council bill, according to the staff report, it is recommended that the city council adopt council bill R 2009-30, and if I'm looking here, it's 2018-30.
My apologies, this is a clerical error.
Okay, I assumed it was, and again, if I had had the afternoon off, I'd have come and talked with you sooner. Same thing with the next one, number 10. Same thing, okay.
You definitely get the proofreading award.
What's that?
You get the proofreading award.
Yeah, well, thank you. That's
number 10.
And
that was
was
it for number 10.
So now
Okay,
we're
number
on
12.
12. Okay, solar panels. So the solar panels that we have kind of served their life, and now we're going to unload them. I didn't know solar panels had a limited life because I'm considering solar on my house. So
Well, they always say 20 years, but it has not been 20 years.
We have it for about 14, 15 years, so it doesn't work anymore, and it causes a roof to leak. So we remove them and now have to fix the roof.
And are we replacing them with more solar panels?
Not yet.
Why not?
I have to do more research to see a better quality, because the new panel are now better efficient, is more efficient than the old one that we had 15 years ago.
So ultimately, the plan is that we will continue to utilize solar energy.
Yes, we
We're
are
just looking
at a
for the
city
right
level.
system.
Correct. And more grant money.
But remember, the RDA paid for these the first time around.
And the gas company, we get a grant from the
Yeah.
the gas company for that.
We don't have the RDA anymore. Are these, are you throwing them all out, or just the
No,
ones?
sir, we got to sell it.
You're selling them?
Yes.
Okay.
Has the mayor bought any?
They I guess,
Scrap or what?
they sell for scrap, and the company that come purchase the whole thing, and then they resell it, and then they have.
Are all of them going, or is this just a
No,
few?
just on top of our city hall here.
So the ones in the parking lot are still functional?
Part of it, yes, but not all of them.
Okay. Is the problem that they're not producing the wattage anymore?
There's two things. First, we have the vacant lot in the back, so every time the wind blows, the dust cover the solar panel, and we can't just wash it down. We have to actually scrub it because the dirt is actually baked on the solar panel, and that's number one. Number two is the equipment that transferred the solar panel into electricity is not working anymore, so we have to buy a new one. So we have to pretty much get the whole new system.
Okay.
And looking for a better way to mount that solar panel on the roof that we have.
So it also sounds like this is an incentive for us to get the stewards to develop that property.
And these didn't last 14 or 15 years either, because I've been here 13 years, and they came after I did. So this is at most 12 years.
Yes, it's not real great.
So the 20-year life cycle is apparently not possible.
And the what?
The roof.
Leaks?
Will eventually leak, even out of people's homes, and because they penetrate.
Put solar up, your roof leaks?
Yes, because they penetrate your roof, and they put a caulking around the bolt. Eventually, the caulking will hard up and shrink, and the water will get in. So it's only a matter of time.
So you don't have solar on your house?
No, sir.
So should we sell our Tesla stock?
No, but last question. If I understand you, the technology is improving and solar is still a good option. And the city intends to continue with our solar program. We just are doing some research while we take this out. Okay, I'm good with that. Thank you. Yeah, I'm not going to be here. I don't know if you are or not, but has the consent calendar been moved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none, it's approved with the modification of item 13 to 2 instead of 1 Ford F-150 Super Cab. Item 16, sorry, but we're going to keep that to the last because 2 guys get to go when we start on that. So we'll go to item 17, designating a voting delegate and alternate for League of Cities annual conference. That usually falls to our highly placed League of Cities officer, Councilman Duper and Jarb.
Yeah, so...
Oh, this is an extra.
Yeah, as the president, I already have a voting position for the league, so we, I don't want to say stack our influence, but we do get a vote aside from that, so we usually sent Jarb as that.
Yeah, Jarb can do the second, and if he can't make it, I guess we'll consider later to come up with an alternate to him.
Yeah, we have a couple months still, but it's a good opportunity to talk about the City Pack fundraiser that's coming up here in July, and it's going to be a pretty good event, and they're going to have league leadership from the state. Jan Arbuckle, the president's going to be there, and a couple other people, and they're really trying to round up the electeds, hint, hint, out there to any potential reps that might be in the audience. So, anyway.
Okay. Thank you for that. I won't comment on where the money goes, but...
So is there an action to be taken tonight, or just an informational item?
It's information. Well, it's for us to decide. Do you need a formal vote, or are you willing to go with that?
Yes, because it need a formal vote, so you can...
So is there a motion to put Jarb in as our voting delegate, and no alternate for the time being?
Well, the alternate can be...
okay.
Take the alternate, yes.
Fine. Then Jarb is the primary, and Conrad is the second.
And Conrad's alternate.
I don't know if you've ever been, but I've actually attended a conference in the past with staff members, but I just don't have any more time to do anything like that. Yeah, no. And I remember it was in Long Beach last time, too.
Yeah, I went 1 year to Long Beach.
Every other year it moves. It's either north or south.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's fine. So we made the motion second.
Yeah, okay.
But you'll be there anyway as president. Okay.
Okay, is there any opposition? Hearing none, that's approved. Any reports of councilmen? Any reports of officers? Now let's go to our, without adjourning, because we haven't done item 16, let's go to our successor agency agenda. Are there any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Any comments from the public on items not on the agenda? Okay, then the consent calendar.
I'll move it.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Hearing none on either. It's approved unanimously, and that agenda is adjourned. The Housing Authority, any items to be added or deleted?
No, sir.
Any comments from the public? None. Consent calendar. Quick motion.
Second.
Motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Any opposition? Hearing none. It's approved unanimously. Any member reports? Any reports of officers? Hearing none. We're adjourned. Now we go to item 16 and we release.
Mayor Rigsby, before you get rid of everybody here, one report from officers. July 16th, there will be a tour for council members and planning commission members of the new hospital construction facility. If you can be here at 9 a.m., if you plan on being there, let Barbara know.
Any way we can start it earlier than 9?
No, actually, it starts at 10. 9 a.m. here, we'll caravan over there.
Smack in the middle of the morning, so it's going to be tough for me to attend.
But anyway, we'll meet here at 9. If you're planning on going, let Barbara or myself know, please. Thank you. Sure, just bring your scrubs and booties. You'll be fine.
You won't get in.
Mr. Mayor, I have one other scheduling item.
Okay.
As you know, there's a personnel hearing that's coming back before you, and we'd like to schedule that for a night when you have no other business. The hearing may not take a long period of time, but it will be a closed session hearing. And the suggested date that all the parties at this point are agreeable to would be August 27th, which is the fourth Tuesday at 7 p.m.
Councilman Popescu will be missing on that date.
the 27th.
Yes, and I did tell the clerk that.
Okay.
I will be in India.
So 2 missing. So we start over.
What about August 13th? Is that a no-go also?
August 13th?
That may be a no-go.
No, I'm gone for 3 weeks. So I'm going from August 11th through September 1st.
September.
I could do the 13th, but they won't. You're right.
Yeah. Is everyone here in September?
I'll be in India for 2.5 weeks.
Wow.
Is everyone
Loma
here in
Linda University,
September?
by the way.
The force be with you.
Everybody September?
As long as they're like Monday, Tuesday-ish. I've got some conflicts that are usually later in the week, some of those weeks, but yeah, I would imagine it'd be a regular, would it be a regular kind of Tuesday thing, or?
Well, it could be any day of the week.
Then I can tell you I can't do 11, 12, 13, 14, well, obviously 14th, but 11, 12, 13th.
All right, your first meeting in September would be on the 10th. We could do it the following evening on the 11th.
I won't be here.
Oops, I'm sorry.
No, you won't be here? Because we got city council scheduled on the 10th already.
Yeah, I'll be here on the 10th. I just won't be here on the 11th.
Can we do it before the meeting?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Is everybody available on the 10th at 5 p.m.?
Yes.
Yep.
What do we call this?
It's a personnel hearing. And just to pull one other alternate,
The week before, I'm okay. I don't know if everybody else is.
I'm good.
Is there any chance for the first week of August?
Yeah. First week of August will work.
What do you count as the first week of August?
The 5th through the 9th.
I'm gone.
You're gone. Okay, so
Every
that
year,
pretty much
every
wipes
year,
out August.
same meeting.
Yeah, these guys are global travelers. Some of us are here mowing our weeds.
My last shot at an alternate would be the end of July,
Yeah.
week of the
Fine.
29th.
That works.
I'm free.
Yes, yes, yes.
Just depends on the day. I cannot do, I could do the 29th or the 30th. I cannot do the 31st through the 2nd.
Tuesday, the 30th. Is that good for everybody?
Yep.
Of July, we're talking.
Yep.
What time?
Yeah.
July 30th, it could be any time.
9 a.m.
Let's do it 5 p.m.
7 a.m.
Early.
5 p.m.
Yeah, I get it over with. If that's
Sure.
okay with everybody else.
Yep,
Mhm.
Sure.
Okay.
So that's just an alternate, so which one,
Yeah.
which date are we actually doing it?
I will consult with the 2 attorneys involved, and if they're ready to go, maybe the earlier one we would shoot for.
Sounds good. You'll let us know then.
Yes, I will try to confirm that as
Because
of
I
tomorrow.
can do any of those. It doesn't matter for me. I can.
Okay.
I'm not the global traveler that my colleagues are. For the
All
right
right.
price? Absolutely.
Thank you
I'm not
very
sure
much.
you can afford me. but-
Okay, is that it? Then we can release our conflicted members and proceed with item 16.
Did you do the other 2 things?
We finished everything.
Oh, okay, good.
Everything except the adjournment of the city council. Okay, so let's proceed with the city staff.
Okay, we'll keep this, Mayor, Mr. Mayor and Councilman, we'll keep this brief and quick. Last time we brought this before you, there was concern about access city access and city-supported entities having access to the message reader board and to the banner associated with these signs. We made adjustments actually changes to the development agreement, literally one sentence in each category that will give the city access to 1 in 6 flips on the reader portion and 6 weeks on the banner or any other vacancy that's available to work within the university schedule. The only blackout periods that we have to deal with completely are homecoming and graduation, which are probably reasonable considering the amount of traffic. So we worked with the chamber, with the university, and they're amenable to that. And then the other piece that we have access to is in an emergency like the earthquake, we would have the reader board turned over to our use for anything we needed. That is it.
One very technical question. 6 weeks of the banner.
Yes.
Is that 1 week at a time, or 1 hour at a time, or 1 day at a time?
It would typically run in week blocks.
Okay.
But there, and we are asking that there's some scheduling in advance, so you don't show up on Tuesday and want the banner up on Wednesday.
Yeah.
But that there's the ability to block out, and then if it's not in use for that free time, then we can get up on the banner as well.
Okay. So it wouldn't be every Tuesday morning and down every Wednesday morning?
No, it wouldn't.
And you get that 42 weeks out of the year, because that's 6 weeks.
No, it'd be the 3rd week in July or something like that, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So then we are back to the original request. So the original request was approved, and this is just a modification?
The original request was approved by you with the request from me that we come back with a modification to address access for the reader board and the banner.
Okay.
So and that is all we are changing is those 2 sentences. That,
benefit of the city.
for the benefit of the city, yes.
So what is the pleasure of the rump of the council?
Move it. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Anybody opposed? I hear none. That's approved unanimously, 3-0.
Thank you.
And with that, we are adjourned. Was it worth the wait?
Oh, yes.
Gripping public policy. I see my medical colleague was not gripped the entire time.
So if this doesn't
It's a little
work,
bit of
we go to
dozing.
Milford, is that right?
He was there, listen to it.
Yeah, okay.